Think your Linux firewall will stop all hackers? Let's find out. On the right, we have the hacker's computer, and on the left, we have the victim's computer. Now, the victim here is running the UFW firewall. So you see, if I check the status with this command, you'll see the firewall is active, the firewall is running. So you might think the computer is secure. You'll see it has logging on. It has, by default, it denies any incoming connection. So you might think it is denying any hacker into the computer, only allowing outgoing, which you might use for browsing the web or whatever purposes. So it's denying all incoming connections. So you might think, okay, you run the firewall. Now the computer is secure. You'll see only SSH is allowed, but even if that was blocked, it wouldn't block everything. Because what we're about to do is, let's say the system administrator found some script on the internet. And the attacker will start a listener. And note that it's allowing or denying incoming connections, but it is allowing outgoing connections. So of course, what the hacker will do is make the computer connect to the hacker's computer or any computer the hacker owns and give them a reverse shell instead of directly connecting. So let's say we run this script. Let's say the user found, the Linux administrator found this script on the internet and they run it. And you'll see we instantly got access into the computer as a hacker. So we can now control this computer remotely. If I list the files and folders, you'll see we find that same script that we run here on the left. We are now in the computer. And from here, they might try to become root user or get into other machines on your network. So just because you run a firewall, it doesn't mean secure. And even when it says denying all incoming connections, it doesn't mean that it's blocking hackers completely. Because, for example, in this example, it's running a reverse shell. So it's using an outgoing connection from this computer to the listener here. You'll see we start as a listener. It creates an outgoing connection and then provides the reverse shell. So if I exit here, you'll see if we take a look at the script, it starts a reverse shell. It connects to the internet address of this hacker's computer on the same port, the same connection line 4444 that we picked here. This is just a random port. So just because you use a firewall that is running a firewall and you deny incoming connection, it's not going to stop all hackers. And this is not the only way a hacker might get access into your machine. And this is called the reverse shell, so it connects to the hacker's computer. That's why we open this port here. And it provided then the shell, the Linux terminal. There are other ways that they might get access. It doesn't always involve the user clicking something or running a script. There are ways that they can attack your computer without you even clicking anything. So this way, how can you prevent it? The way you could prevent it is not running random scripts from the internet or running random commands on your machine. You'll see it only takes one line for the hacker to get access into your computer. All they need is a listener somewhere on the server or any server on the internet and you to run a single line of code. And then they get access into their computer. Of course, this internet address would have to be a public internet address or someone on the same network, but typically it is any internet address. And the ports, the connection line can be any. So to prevent this, don't run these random single lines. Don't trust code that you didn't write yourself or commands, because these commands could be malicious and all it takes is one single line for a hacker to get into your computer. In a most simple attack, a hacker directly connects to a Linux server and has access. That is, if there's no firewall running at all. This does happen in the real world sometimes, but a lot of Linux system administrators, they protect their servers using a firewall to prevent these direct attacks where they simply connect directly into the server using malware or using direct passwords or exploits. They can directly connect to the server and get in. So a lot of system administrators, they will install a firewall to prevent exactly this type of attack. So here we have the hacker's computer. The firewall blocks the connection and it never reaches the Linux server. Now, this is working for incoming connections. So if we take a look at the firewall configuration here, you see it's blocking incoming connections, denying incoming connections. That is from the hacker's computer directly to the Linux computer. But that doesn't mean that the computer is now safe. What you would have to do as a system administrator is to block also outgoing connections or to go beyond that in your security measures. Security is never one thing, it's the complete package. So it's blocking this incoming connection, but with a reverse shell, what happens is that it bypasses the firewall completely, the incoming connections, and it directly uses the outgoing connections. So you see the Linux computer directly connects to the hacker's computer or a computer owned by the hacker and gives a reverse shell. So it's an outgoing connection. And because it's an outgoing connection, it bypasses the configuration. You'll see it's allowed in the configuration. And that's why we got this reverse shell. We got directly access into the computer. So a firewall, it doesn't mean the computer is automatically safe or secure. It can block incoming connections. You can also configure it to block outgoing connections. But security goes far beyond a firewall. And there's a lot of different things going on. So you might wonder, how do you prevent this kind of attacks? So of course, you could simply stop running scripts yourself, but there might be multiple users on your computer where those users run scripts or run commands from the internet, like this command that we have here. So let's say one of the users using the Linux server is running one of these commands. You see the hacker instantly gets access into the computer. And if you're a system administrator, if you maintain Linux systems, you cannot control what your users do all the time. They might copy commands from the internet or run random scripts from the internet. So in this case, we got the reverse shell as the attacker. You'll see we have this same script here. The hacker is in the Linux box on the left. They got user access. So how, as a system administrator, might you detect this? So one thing to watch for is network connections. You could monitor network connections. You can use the command netstat. Now, that might be or might not be installed by default on Ubuntu systems. On Ubuntu Linux, it's not installed by default, so copy the command and install it. And with that command, it contains a tool called netstat. And with that command, you can check network connections on your computer. So now if we run the netstat commands and we set some flags, so we want all information on the network, TCP protocol, and we want to have the program name as well if there's any network connection. So if I run this command, we see it is a bit small. So let's say we make this larger. And we can see different connections. So we see foreign address, that is outgoing connections. You'll see different internet addresses and also which program is running. So for example, here we see that address connected to 4444. That is the address that the reverse shell is using. And you'll see the command here is bash. So of course it can be any program. It can be showing bash or anything else that you might think is legitimate. It might be Python, PHP or whatever. But you see here the connection. And in this case, it's an internal network that you recognize on this. But in the real world, it might be any internet address. On the internet, it might show a strange port. Basically, if you see foreign addresses, it could be a malicious attack, but keep in mind there can also be legitimate users. Like if any user connects to the server, to the Linux server you maintain, they might show here as well their foreign addresses. But if there is a reverse shell connection, you'll see it in this list of network connections. So that's one of the ways you might be able to detect it. Of course, you can also check the bash history and see which commands are typed for users, if there are any strange commands happening, and other different methods.